I think the United States, as I said, still lags behind. We've got to move forward. We've got to re-engage in the international climate change negotiations and be a leader, not a drag, on those negotiations. But come 2009, I'm quite confident we'll see action at the federal level, like we saw here in California. I think we'll see it sweep the country. That should be good news for people here. I think that global warming is a challenge, but obviously, again, it's a real opportunity to ride a new wave of economic growth. I think energy transformation will be the next big thing. Early in my career on the Hill, I worked a lot in the infotech side, where I think the business community largely had sort of two rules of thumb for those people on Capitol Hill. Stay out of the way, don't do anything, and enforce the antitrust laws. Energy is quite a different matter, I think, partly because of the regulated nature of the industry, partly because of the externalities of the cost of carbon. If there's not government policy that kind of gooses the system in the right direction, I think change will happen, but it'll happen at a much slower rate than if we get this right. And sound policies that promote efficiency and encourage new markets and foster investment, public and private partnership, again, in climate solutions can be a major source of jobs and growth. Given the current state of our economy, as I noted, particularly the state of the housing crisis and now the crisis in our debt markets, I think that the Congress right in the short term is focused more narrowly on what to do about the stimulus, but I think in relatively short order they're going to be thinking about how you have a broader plan for economic recovery that makes the right kind of investments. And again, I think if you look to the long-term economic needs of this country, if you look to jobs, if you look to wage growth, if you look to efficiency, productivity, innovation, where you see, I think, the push is going to be on energy and a transformation of energy. We ought to be investing in that future. The Center for American Progress, which I lead now, developed a roadmap to guide that energy transformation. It's available on our website at americanprogress.org. Everybody's mentioning their websites. The thesis of the case is that energy policy is economic policy. We've got to make that transition from thinking of energy as a one-off environmental issue to front and center the core economic challenge that the country faces. To meet the overall goal, of course, we adopted the argument for cap and trade. I would say one thing, because Jim Rogers raised it this morning, and I think this is something you should particularly pay attention to as investors. The debate is going to be over the course of the next year. I think the debate is almost over that the Congress will move forward with a cap and trade, an economy-wide cap and trade. The big debate is who gets the permits, how do they come through an auction, or are they handed out to incumbent players? That's something you have a great stake in, and I think your views would be ought to be expressed on Capitol Hill. We proposed the kind of auction that sent shudders down Jim's spine, I guess. 100% of the credits should be auctioned. We allocate 10% of the revenue to business operating in energy-intensive sectors to cushion the blow there. Half of the remaining 90%, we argue, should be allocated to low and moderate income Americans to cushion the rise of energy prices on them. And then the rest, half of that, that's about $36 billion a year, $360 billion over 10, should be invested in science and technology, innovation, tax credits to move this forward in a very substantial and quick way. We also obviously recommend complementary policies on increasing vehicle economy, efficiency, the things that have been discussed today, a 25% renewable electricity standard for the nation by 2025, 25% of our biofuels, we believe, can be produced sustainably by 2025. But I think that this question of how the structure of the cap and trade will structure the market. I know that you had a session on that yesterday, and it's really, I think, critical. If we follow the European path, as Jim, I think, was suggesting, which is to give all the, as they did at the beginning, which was essentially to give all of the permits away to incumbent players, what I think we can expect to see what happened in Europe, which is rates went up, ratepayers paid more, and the money was pocketed because they're valuable permits, pocketed by the incumbent players, which went back to their shareholders rather than doing anything about investing in the innovation. Of course, I think in our plan, because my colleagues and I had a good deal of experience in running what I think was an effective government, we also put forth several ideas about how to organize the White House and the federal government, which is the largest energy user as an entity of any entity in the world, to work in partnership with the private sector to hurry the future of this low-carbon, high-energy, high-efficiency future. Jeff Sturba talked about RDD&D. We've also put forward, I wrote a paper with John Deutsch and Peter Ogden from the center. John Deutsch was the former CIA director, but his early part of his career was in the Energy Department, to double the investment in science and technology, but to also reorganize how the federal government actually supports science and technology, including the creation of an energy technology corporation. So I think a future based on abundant, clean, renewable resources is not only urgently needed, it is achievable. Investing in clean energy makes economic sense, it makes environmental sense, it's critical for us and here at home, domestically, economically, but it's also critical for the U.S. national security and the human security of the globe. We shouldn't wait to jumpstart that energy transformation. It has to happen now. It's happening with the kinds of investments you're making. But I firmly believe that with the right kind of policy push from the government, as we've seen in California, other states around the country, if we see that at the federal level, the investment opportunities will be tremendous, and the rapidity of change will come at a much greater rate than without that kind of federal activity. So watch the campaign, watch what's happening on Capitol Hill, and get ready for make your voices known, particularly on this idea about how this market is likely to be created.